Good morning, it's Martin at Panel Foreman's. Last week we had this superb E36 M3 on the dyno. It's got the S54 engine in there. It's got OEM control unit, the MSS54 engine control unit. This one does have a set of cams. It's a freshly built engine. It's new shells in there and whatnot. It's got a set of cams in there, and it's also got the intake with the MAF off, so it's running MAFless. A lot of people call it Alpha N or whatever they want to call it, but when they've not got a MAF in there, they struggle in the lower RPM range unless you know how to do the correct tuning with inside the engine control unit. It's all about getting the Advanced exhaust cam timing set up right, and also the throttle body position right, as well as all the lambda maps correct. This vehicle is absolutely superb vehicle. This vehicle has already been to a tuning company, quite a well-known tuning company for tuning these vehicles, but the power, the lambda of it was absolutely shocking. I pulled the file out of there and I'm embarrassed about looking at the file. There's a known tuning company for these vehicles as well, and the software in there was absolutely diabolical. I don't know how he's got away with tuning these and having a reputation for tuning these with the software. The full load fueling map were there. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. I could teach my 12-year-old daughter how to understand the ECU strategy on these better than that. Absolutely nothing, no real calibration in there at all. Absolutely shocking. So we'll just put the phone down now and then we'll go and look at the dyno graphs. Obviously I tuned it last week, but I didn't do a video where we were going to an agent training meeting and a charity event that I arranged over the weekend. So we got it tuned on the Thursday, and then I pulled it back into the workshop, which is in here, and the dyno graphs on the dyno, in the dyno room. So we'll just go and have a look at the dyno graphs now. But absolutely phenomenal car. Now this S54 engine, not the usual thing I would generally tune, but going back some 4 or 5 years ago, I bought a race car, one of these M3 race cars, the E46 with the S54 engine in, and I put a couple of months development work into them. I also live emulated the engine control unit so I could tune it in real time, steady state on the dyno. I really did go OCD on the tuning of the OEM control unit. And at the time, we got some absolutely awesome figures out of them. You know, we were pushing some 390 brake horsepower. I think mine made 382, but we tuned about 4 or 5 of them. You know, some with a few little upgrades like this. I think maximum we saw out of it one was just nearly 400 brake horse with a few hardware modifications. And there was a lot of people at the time then saying, oh, it's impossible to get that power out of these normally aspirated engines. You know, and it was a lot of the tuning companies that have been tuning them a long time. And then it seems now that they are getting the power out of them now. But whereas 4 years ago, you know, there was a lot of debates online. There was a lot of debates on a lot of the track groups. You know, and there was a lot of, obviously when you go on these track groups, there's a lot of sheep or a lot of followers of said tuning companies, because said tuning company said it couldn't make that power. It's impossible on a OEM control unit. You know, they have a lot of followers saying, oh yeah, it's impossible because so-and-so said it as well. So-and-so's now doing it, you know, so-and-so's now getting, I think this one dyno at his place, 388 brake horse, but yeah, going back 3, 4, 5 years ago when I tuned him up to that, he put out that it's impossible, but now he's doing it, you know, so it is for funny. It is funny really, isn't it, you know. But yes, now this did make 388 brake horse on his dyno. The dyno graph itself isn't too bad. I'll show you in a minute. But we'll have a look at the lambda as well, the air-fuel ratio in there, which is absolutely shocking. And the file itself, what I pulled out of the ECU, like I said, I'm embarrassed. If I was a tuning company and I'd put that standard of work in, I would quit the industry. I would quit being a tuning company because it's certainly not tuning. It's certainly not tuning in my book. So we'll go and have a look at the dyno graphs now. So this is the stock dyno graph that it came to us in. And like I say, if we just look at, if we get rid of the lambda. If you look at the graph itself, yes, you could say it's, well, apart from the lower RPM range here, when this is because of the mathless, and he's not got the cam timing set up correctly, and he's not got the lambda set up correctly, so you get a dip there. A lot of people put them onto HP control units and put a map sensor in there, but it's not really needed if you know how to correctly calibrate these OEM control units. We can get rid of this. So yeah, if we look at the higher RPM range, yes, it pulls quite well, doesn't it? It made 388 on his dyno, and it's made 393 on ours. You've got to understand, we've got really good dyno cell cooling here. Our dyno simulates up to 140, 150 mile an hour winds. Now, a lot of dyno companies, they only got a little fan that might produce 40 or 50 mile per hour winds. But we test these vehicles, you can see what speed it's gone up to, 222 kilometers per hour. You know, so you need to replicate that within your dyno cell. There's no point in doing or getting that speed and then only having a fan that produces 100 kilometers an hour wind at the front. You imagine sitting on the bonnet, going down the road at this speed, the huge volume of air that you will get would be immense. So the engine also demands a huge volume of air. So yes, we have made slightly more brake horsepower than what he did. He made 388, we've made 393 on our dyno. But that is correct. People say, oh, well, that's fake. It's a happy dyno. No, it's not. It's a correct dyno with correct cooling. That's what it is. So yes, on face value, you could say, well, it's done all right, that. 384 Newton-meters torque, 393 brake horse. What's your problem? The problem is, once we start looking at it and we're analysing the data log, we'll just get the lambda up there. And let me just get the cursor on. Now, if you look at the lambda here, I mean, lambda 10 there, into 10's like this, so rich, absolutely flooding it with fuel. Absolutely horrific. Now look at the lambda up here as well. The lambda here where it all goes on. Yes, he hasn't got the cam timing, exhaust cam timing set right. Yes, he's not got the throttle angle correct and stuff like that. But the lambda across the full RPM range is just absolutely laughable. It wants to be around about there. 12 into the 12s, you know, but I mean, it's really, really lean there, really lean, dangerously lean, and absolutely flooding it with fuel there. You know, it is absolutely horrific, you know. So it's not just about seeing the numbers, it's about also seeing how the vehicle is set up, looking at the software in the ECU, data logging the vehicle, making sure it's correctly set up. So yeah, he has made the numbers, but yet going back 3-4 years ago, he said these numbers was impossible. He was one that putting out on post saying it's impossible. So there were loads of sheep. Sorry about calling people sheep, but that's what we are in life, aren't we? We're followers, aren't we? So there was loads of people backing him up saying, oh, it's impossible. Yet now it's tuning them like this. You know, but we, or I was some 4 or 5 years ago, did make this power, but like I said, it took me some a month, 2 months of really in-depth development on it. So we'll have a look at the one that I tuned now. I'll just put phone down so you don't see the name of who did tune it while I load mine up. That is how it should be tuned. You can see with no dip in the bottom, yeah? Yes, we've made similar figures. We've made slightly more. We raised the RPM limit up a little bit, but you can see it's dropping off anyway. But we've made slightly more power, and we've made another 12 Newton meters of torque. But the grunt it's got from the low down will make this vehicle pull out of corners so much better. Now, if we look at the lambda on it as well, you can see we've got perfect lambda across full rev range. Let me just get the cursor on. See, I said we want to be into 12s lambda, you know, and we're going across the rev range at 12s. It is absolutely superb. And that is where the sweet spot is on these. Into the 12s Lambert, we've got really good ignition. I think we're pulling 29 degrees ignition. Absolutely perfect. Let's see if we can overlay the tuned, or the previous one. I'll just put the phone down again so you don't see the name of who tuned it previously. Try and get the Lambert on as well. So right, that is it overlaid. So look at, this is the previous tuned person, this thin line. Now look at the bold line, this is us, yeah? Now this is running a mathless, but with us calibrating or setting the cam timing correctly, and also the throttle angle, and also the Lambert as well, so we've got correct air-fuel ratio, we don't have this big drop. So this is the correct way how to do mathless. This has not got a map sensor in there. This is just running correct calibrated software in the OEM control unit, S54 engine. But you can see we've got much better torque pulling out of junctions. I mean, not pulling out of junctions, it's a track car. So pulling out of the bends, you'll have much more torque in the lower RPM range, and it'll just pull out the bends so much better. And of course, we've just made slightly better power across the full rev range. We've increased the RPM limit to 8.2, whereas these are stock. They'll run to 8.2 all day long. And the numbers we've made, yes, we've made slightly more brake horse, but again, it's not all about the brake horsepower. Like we've explained, it's about the data logging. It's about having correct air-fuel ratio, but yes, we have made slightly more brake horsepower. 396 brake horse out of a S54 engine running stock ECU. Yes, it's got a set cams in there and it's got an intake system on there. But this is possible figures, and it has come apparent now because there is other tuning companies that are getting near this or close to this. But yet some 4 years ago, these same tuning companies that are getting close to this now, we're telling people they don't make 360 brake horse. Now they've changed their mind. So I hope this does open people's eyes into the correct truth of what these engines can correctly make, and also you can look at them calibrated correctly. That is it, calibrated correctly. The bold lines, which are tuned by myself, the thin lines, which have been tuned by probably one of the person who tunes most of these in the country, but the software in there is absolutely diabolical. Absolutely diabolical. Really is. And Lambert on it, how rich it got, how lean it was in the lower RPM range. Shocking, absolutely shocking. So this race car is going to leave today. The customer's going to pick it up. And again, it's not just about the numbers as well. These cars on track, they'll pull lengths on other similar cars that have been tuned elsewhere. So, you know, it's not just about the numbers, it's about how the vehicles drive on the track. And we'll pull lengths down the straights because we have more torque coming out of the corners, more power, more grunt, and obviously we're pulling more brake horsepower. We've got the legs on other same spec vehicles that have been tuned incorrectly. So that's a look at the S54 engine running OEM engine control unit, correctly calibrated. And yes, they do make these figures. It's proven. We proved it some 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, some tuning companies said it were nonsense, but yet the tuning companies now today are tuning them to that. So it is true, they can make that figure. So hope this stops all the sheep followers or people debating in groups saying, oh, it can't be done because my tuning company said it can't be done. Well, your tuning company's doing them now, and this one was dyno tested up to 388 brake horse. So that is correct tuning on the S54 engine for the BMWs. Thanks for watching.